Roger concludes, he says, despite the perpetual pain of missing my family, I have peace because I cherished them while I could. I built that birdhouse with Makina 7 weeks before it was too late. And we spent quantity time with our children. And I have no regrets. You know, spending time with children is something that we all recognize that we must do. It's just hard to do given demanding jobs at times. And the problem hasn't gone unnoticed because 39 to 50% of women and men of working parents admit that they do not spend enough time with their kids. So it is something that we recognize is an issue. And there is an issue, a message here for you kids today too, because as younger kids, you crave time with mom and dad. But someday you're going to become teenagers. And as teenagers, you may not crave time with mom and dad as much as you do today. So cherish your time together. But how do we accomplish this balance today in our busy world? The ideas that I'm going to suggest to you today do not come out of the Bible, so they are not biblically mandated ideas. They're just suggestions that I think are useful, but they are suggestions which help move us toward that biblical mandate of numbering our days, of valuing our short time together so much that we take action to spend more time with our family. So let's look at a few suggestions. These suggestions come from Focus on the Family. And they write to not expect corporate America to recognize how much you are needed at home. The employer's family life isn't a part of the annual report. And it is the annual report that they focus on. And so we need to take action as parents to guard ourselves and to watch that. So their first suggestion is, number one, work smarter. Are you a morning person, or do you do better work at night? And if you are a morning person, perhaps you begin work a little earlier in the day, particularly if you have that option of flex time. And that way, it has the added benefit of getting off early and beating the traffic home, which can allow for more time with the kids. And then if you are a morning person and you become less productive after lunch, then use that time for less taxing jobs. And of course, this is something that I do. I am a morning person, so probably 90% of my sermons actually get written in the morning, and then I spend the afternoon, which for me are less productive time, on other tasks. Second suggestion might be to skip going out to lunch. I don't know how many of you actually go out to lunch. But if you do and you spend a full hour, maybe possibly bring your own lunch, go out to a park or find a nice place to eat it, and maybe cut it down from an hour to 30 minutes. Because if you're working past 6 or 7 p.m., and part of that is because of the long time you spend at lunch, where that might not necessarily be good stewardship of your time, as suggested here. A third suggestion would be to think through any promotion. If you are offered a promotion, does it mean more hours? Will it lead to more travel? And we have to ask, is the money worth it? And I have actually talked with someone from our congregation over the last 6 months who actually turned down a promotion for that reason. And I think that's a very admirable thing to put the family first, and really to trust in God's promises. And really that's the next question. Believe in God's promises. God said He will provide for all of your needs. And it was this thought that inspired a new Christian to slow down and to decrease his hours. And he went from 11 to 12 hours a day to 10 max. And basically he had to learn to trust in God that he would provide for his needs even with the less number of hours. And he admits that I don't always get what I want, but I always get what I need, and God will provide. And in fact, on our deathbed, on deathbeds, very rarely has anyone ever complained about not making enough money. But people have had many times the regret of not spending enough time with family. Our last point might be to reserve the weekends for the family. If you've done all of the above and there's just no much more time to cut out, no more time to be efficient, maybe the last thing we can do is to not bring any work home on the weekend. Christopher, a salesman for a marketing firm, still puts in 50 to 60-hour weeks, but he stopped working on the weekend. He basically said Saturdays and Sundays are for the kids. They should know that from Friday night to Sunday is family and that we're going to be doing something together, whether it's playing baseball, going to SeaWorld, or raking the lawn together. It was in our gospel reading this morning that we heard the following words. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Some of you who might remember the old animal yoke. I don't know if any of you ever worked first hands with these things. Used to harness two animals together or to pull a plow or a cart. And the animal yoke is different than the human yoke, which is worn by a single person in order to distribute the weight of a load across the shoulders. Now, the yoke, in either case, is an unwelcomed restriction. It's something which we are very glad to throw off when the work is done. But the purpose of the human yoke is to make it easier to carry or to pull the load. And if there is a burden to be borne, it is much better to do that with a yoke than without a yoke. So as we carry our responsibilities of our jobs and try to balance that with our vocations as parents or grandparents, may we find rest in Jesus. You know, if I were to spend a lot of time looking theologically at this passage, we would realize that the heavy yoke that it is speaking about technically is the yoke of the law. And the law actually creates a burden in our lives. But it is the good news of Jesus Christ, the forgiveness that we received, and when we confess our sins, that forgiveness that comes from that cross that lightens our load and brings rest. So my prayer is that the joy we receive through forgiveness of Christ, that it might lighten our loads. It might lighten our loads and strengthen and encourage us as we glorify God in our vocations. In Jesus' name, amen.